Here we go.
Do it.
Okay, cool.
Here we go. Until Scott's comfortable, because if he's not comfortable, things just don't go well.
Things don't go well. Things don't go as planned.
Look at him. Look at him relaxing there, reclined a little bit there.
Watching.
Yeah, my feet are in the sink right now.
What?
Do you have the water going?
I'm in the bathroom.
Why are they in the sink? Is there water in the sink?
They're next to the sink.
Okay.
They're like this because
it's your foot bath? Yeah.
What? No,
it's your foot bath?
No, my feet are just up.
It's a little Zen garden for his feet.
Why are you recording, Holly? Are you cutting this out?
No, let's
we're
put all of
keeping
this
it
on.
Yeah, 100%.
This would be a fun one already. This would be a fun one to put on YouTube. Already.
I know.
Drop it in.
Okay, anyways. Welcome back to Coffin Talkin', where we unravel the mysteries, embrace the peculiar, and find humor in the unconventional world of funerals and death. I'm here with Frank. I'm here with Scott.
Hello.
What the heck? Little elves.
He started it. I don't know what it was.
It's not elves, it's leprechauns. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. Little Keebler elf.
Little Keeblers. How are you guys doing?
Good. And I'll let Scott maybe take over what he's doing, because everyone hears from me, coffiners, and so I don't need to spill my beans regarding what I've done this past week. Okay, let me start.
No. Oh, great. Okay, yeah.
I'm kidding you. Hello.
I have a lot to say.
Don't cut off my mic. No, I'm good.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. So how have you been, Scott? We haven't seen you for a while.
Yeah, I've been pretty good. I did hear some good news today.
Oh, good.
There's a choir. Well, people might know it. It's the Millennial Choir and Orchestra.
MCO.
Yeah, an MCO. So one of the people that goes to church with me, she said, "Hey, my sister is looking for someone to audition with." Because I guess for women, because it's very competitive for women, I guess. So on their site, it says if you audition with someone as a male, if you just like reference their name, the audition is done individually. But if you just say, "Hey, I'm referring this guy who's auditioning jointly with me," then they have a better chance of doing it. So I did, and I sent in a video, and I've got a in-person audition on Thursday.
Oh my gosh.
Fantastic.
Which will be nice. And so I'm pretty excited about that, and I feel pretty good about it. Yeah, and we'll see even if they say, "Hey, not for us," then it'll still be kind of fun.
They won't say that.
That's really fun.
Yeah, they won't say that.
But even if that's the case, I think I'll wait till next year to do it. Just because there's just things going on right now so.
Okay.
So can you do that? Can you defer, or will you have to audition again?
According to what this friend has told me, it seems like you can defer. And you won't have to audition again. If they say, "Okay, we want you in the choir," then you can say, "All right, well, I'm going to be next."
Well, here are my terms.
Yeah, next season.
You want me? I'm not so fast.
Yeah.
No.
You haven't heard what I want.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's super exciting.
That is exciting. That's a fantastic choir, by the way. For anyone that hasn't had an opportunity to listen to them, oh my gosh, you guys. Take the time if they're in your area, ever in your area. MCCO. What are their initials?
Just one C.
Just Millennial Choir. That's the way I know them. But you guys use and orchestra.
So
okay. MCO. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that the same as EVMCO?
I don't know.
No,
it might have been, but I don't think they can do that anymore, because I think there's two. If I'm not mistaken, I think there's two choirs right now, right? I could be wrong. I thought there were 2 choirs.
Well, Scott will have to give us the scoop next time.
I'll give you the scoop next time.
Unless you don't make it, then we won't
Yeah.
ask you about it.
Okay, great.
So that
Yeah.
audition is this Thursday, Scott? This
Yeah.
next Thursday? Okay, cool. Good.
That's really fun. It's a good way to keep music in your life.
Does Fictitious Lisa know about it?
Nope.
She will tonight. She'll scream.
Oh, good.
She'll scream
Yeah, she'll be so excited.
in terror or joy.
Joy.
I think outrage because she was she did not get in.
She didn't try.
She didn't try.
No, she didn't try. They keep asking her to join or to audition.
Do they really?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And she keeps refusing.
Because the terms aren't good enough yet,
That's
right?
correct. That's probably right.
She's a made-up character.
No.
That's what it is.
She's going to
You know,
be their mascot.
The lady that you grew up with, well, the mother of the children you grew up with in our neighborhood, last name H, she's in the choir.
Who?
I don't like to mention names.
Oh, H is the last. It starts with H?
H is the last name.
I don't know. You can tell us
and one of their sons is studying to be a actor.
Okay.
Do you know who it is yet?
Oh, they don't live in our neighborhood.
They used to live in our neighborhood.
What?
Yep.
Okay, well,
and now they moved. Now they've moved over by the.
Oh, well, yeah.
Oh, careful.
Yeah. Anyway, so she's in the choir. She always asks Lisa, FL, to go ahead and audition. And then the lady that's over the entire choir, also, who has asked myself and Lisa to sing in small choirs with the choir, she's always been asking Lisa to audition for the choir.
Wow.
So, yeah, you think I'm kidding, but no, it's true. She has been asked to audition, and she would be grateful or good. She would be so excited, Scott, to know that you've been asked to come back for an in-person audition. So that'll be good for her. Good news.
Yeah, it's not good enough for Lisa to join, but it's great if Scott joins.
I think Lisa right now would probably do it, except for the grandkids. Whenever she has the opportunity, she goes to see the grandkids. So
I think it's only Thursdays that you practice.
Yeah, but there's tours.
Yeah.
And there's also concerts. So
it's already not sounding great to you. You just want the practice.
I don't know about the tours.
I think they're going to.
I actually have a friend who just Ireland.
Where are they going? Was it England?
I don't know. I didn't know it was international. But I have a friend up here that does it. I don't know if they have a branch here or what, but they just toured and they went to New York and Ohio.
Maybe it was New York. Ireland, New York is probably the same.
Basically the same thing.
Yeah.
You got to get on a plane to get there. So
New York, the Ireland of America.
Don't they have like a neighborhood called Little Ireland?
Yeah, probably.
I'm sure they do.
It's next to Chinatown.
Oh, that's the one.
Right next to Chinatown.
Yeah.
Little
I
Italy.
never wanted to go to Ireland. Do you know why? Because it's a land full of ire.
That's not doing it for me.
And, I just don't want to be immersed in that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Try to keep the emotions light.
Yeah.
Keep it happy. It's not for me.
Oh, yeah.
I'll have my bowl of Lucky Charms and I'll be good.
You know what I watched this week? I was sitting at home working from home. And I just turned on the movie Brave. And you know that scene, the Pixar movie, that scene where the lady says, "If you had a chance to change your fate, would ya?" I watched that. Oh my gosh, you've got to watch it. I rewound that and watched it, I think 10 times, and I was dying laughing. And then I came home, or Caden came home, and I told him about it, and he goes, they're not Irish. They're from Scotland. And he ruined the entire thing for me.
Way to go, Kaden.
Yeah,
Wow,
thanks a
Kaden,
lot.
jeez.
Jeez. Killed the magic. The charms are no longer lucky.
Oh, they're still magically delicious, though.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Wow,
Oh,
okay, it's been 11
man.
minutes.
Yeah, so anyways, Dad, the people do want to hear about your week. What's going on? I see you're sitting next to a microwave.
Yeah.
Tell us
I've been
about
trying
that.
I've been trying to put it on the wall. I haven't been able to put it on the wall yet. So hopefully tonight. That's it. That's my whole week. That's my whole week. That's all I've been waiting on is to do the microwave.
That's all I've been trying to do all week.
Yeah. So thanks so much for bringing that up. That's a sore spot in my side right now, Holly. But thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, this is why you didn't want to volunteer.
That's right.
It's been a tough week for the microwaves.
Yeah.
Man, that's funny. Well, I want to share, we got some fan mail today or this past week, and it was hilarious. So these are both in response to the Red X episode. One is from listener in Lamont, Colorado, Longmont. And he says, let the parting music lift your spirits. Dad, that's what you said at the end.
Right.
And he said, we don't need any other spirits lifting, Frank.
That's funny.
And then we got another one saying, have you guys ever heard of Elf on a Shelf? He was still there. You just needed to find him. Oh my gosh. And this one is specifically, okay, I thought that this was brilliant. That this was from a listener named Beth, also in Colorado. She emailed in this week and said, hi there. Has anyone mentioned that the Frank and Scott sessions could be called Fraught with Questions? And it would be pronounced the same as fraught, Fraught, after all. Haha, Skrank is, of course, hilarious and a keeper, too. And then she says, love the podcast here in Colorado. Keep going as long as possible.
Fraught.
But I thought, isn't that so clever?
That was clever.
That is pretty good.
I think
when you say fraught, I always think with error, fraught with error.
Oh.
And do we want to put the fraught? I do like it.
Thanks anyway, Beth. Thanks anyway. So no,
that is creative. Though.
I think it's good.
Yeah, it's creative.
I think that's very good.
I know, isn't that cute?
It is cute.
We could do both.
We could do both.
We can switch off. But today we will just keep it classic and say, let's be Skrank.
Okay.
That's my transition, Scott. That's you now.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah. So we're just going to jump right in. I think the first question that we have is from Scott. It's me.
Oh.
It's you. Oh.
It's my question. Yeah, I do.
Okay. I was going to say, is it you, Scott?
In your experience as a funeral director, or maybe it's just what you perceive, or maybe it's something that you've just actually seen. But what do you think is the most misunderstood part of the whole process?
Of which process?
Let's just say from death until disposition.
Okay, so I'm going to bring up two. So a lot of people have misconstrued or have different thoughts about what happens with an autopsy. So when an autopsy is performed, and we've talked about this before, there's an incision that's made from mid-shoulder down to mid-sternum, down to the pubic area. That is opened up, all the organs are biopsied, and then they're all placed, once they're done, in a bag. That includes the brain. So the other day, we had an individual look at me and say, you must really know your anatomy. And I said, well, I know some anatomy. And they said, well, when the autopsy is complete, you have to put all the organs back in order. And I just sat my pen down on the desk and I thought, and I looked at him and I said, you think that we put all the organs back in order? And he goes, yes. And I said, no. That's not how it happens at all. All the organs are placed in what's called a visceral bag, including the brain matter. And he was just totally dumbfounded. And I said, and that those organs are then immersed in a fluid, a formaldehyde-based fluid that preserves them together in that bag. And then the bag is placed back in the cavity, and then the individual is sewed up. And that's all that's done with those tissue and those organs. So I think just from that comment right there, I think that's a good question, Scott, because a lot of times when it comes to the autopsy, or even it could be anything that's actually transpiring within the funeral industry, people are still kind of ignorant toward it. And ignorant's a good term. I mean, it's not like you're totally dumb. It's just that you're ignorant towards that aspect of the funeral industry. So yes, everything is put in a bag, immersed in a formaldehyde base, and then the bag is placed back into the body. So we don't go organ by organ trying to place them right back where they were taken from. So there's number one. Number two, that I think is interesting too, and again, this is going back to services. A lot of times people will think that because a person's being cremated, they can't have a service. And so when you look, and this is one of those myths, I call them myths within the funeral industry. There's 8 that I'd really like to talk about in some of the episodes, but I'll address these 2 right now because of the question. But the myth is that because the person's cremated, you can't have a service. Well, that's not true. You can have a service with the individual. You can have that individual embalmed and then placed in either on a dressing table or in a rental casket. Have a service that goes on, and then afterwards have the individual cremated. Or you can have the individual cremated and then move or at least have present the cremated remains in an urn on a table for display for individuals with a photo, so that you're focused on the individual that's been cremated. But yeah, never think that I have never seen an option without a service. So there's always service capability, regardless of what happens or how the person passes away. You can always have a service. So I'll address those 2 right now, according to I think those are probably 2 that I see and hear about a lot, where individuals are actually confused about the autopsy process and also about what they can and cannot do regarding cremated remains.
Very interesting. And I would be interested to know more, and I think probably a lot of our listeners as well, about those other 6.
Yeah.
And even the more details that you have about the other 2 that you just mentioned. But
sure. And we'll bring them up. We'll bring them up in another episode.
Yeah, that can be done at a different point. But yeah, that's absolutely true. And I would just echo what we've heard, or what we were talking about at the beginning with, because you said if you ever have the chance to go see MCO, then you should go and see it. And I think if you ever have a chance to see an autopsy, you should see it.
Yeah.
Really?
You've seen them, right, Scott?
Yeah. Only one. That was one of the doctors that works at your facility sometimes. Let me go back and observe.
Was that enough? The one?
Oh, This is going to sound weird, but I feel like if I wanted to see another, I would want to see it with other people present. Maybe even if it's their first time, because I would want to see their reaction as well. Because it was very strange. And you're right. Some of the things that I thought of, that I thought, it'll probably happen this way and it'll probably happen that way, but they're a little different, like you said.
Yeah.
So very interesting. Very cool.
So I can see on Holly's face, she wants to now participate in an autopsy. You've never seen an autopsy, have you, Holly?
No, I've seen an embalming, but I've never seen an autopsy.
Yep.
Ooh, can you just go in and watch that? Do you have to have connections? Or?
You have to have permission from the doctor. And sometimes it would be good the doctor can give you permission because he's the one doing the autopsy, or a family member can say, and this is an episode 2 that I'm going to talk to you about here within the next couple of weeks. It's on my agenda, Scott or Holly, where a family member, the husband, would not be told no, that he could not attend his wife's autopsy. Worst thing he could have ever done is go in and see his wife being autopsied.
But he insisted that he do
Insisted. That? Yep. And there's a whole episode based on that.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to see that either. Well, this one's actually an interesting one because you mentioned You mentioned the brain has to be removed pretty much, I would say pretty much everything above waistline. Most everything above waistline.
Organs.
Or organs.
Yes.
Organs, yeah,
Yeah.
including the brain. So this question, let's say, for instance, that an individual, we'll say, an individual has had their hair shorn during an autopsy, and maybe that doesn't happen. You can address that as well. If that does happen, if they have their head shaved to facilitate in the removal of the brain, do you usually use a wig or a toupee or something else if they're going to be viewed?
Okay, so the instruments, and we call them instruments for a reason, that are used during an autopsy, and the scalpel is used specific for precision cutting. So when you talk about the brain or the head, you're going from the top of the ear to across the crown of the head to the top of the other ear, maybe just a little bit below mid-ear. And then you take that scalpel, and so what you're doing is you're just separating the hair so that you have a fine line that you've actually cut. So the hair is not ever shaved, shorn, the way you described it, or cut. And so if a person comes in with a real close haircut, great, no hair is changed. If a person comes in with extra long hair, that again is fine, because the family would never know that there's an incision under that hair unless they put their hand there. So when it comes to the head or the scalp, the thing to note is that it never would affect the hair. So when you say toupee, not unless he wore a toupee or she wore a toupee, would we put a toupee on a person's head. Because again, the incision is made with an instrument that is allowing you to make that fine pencil line cut, and then you're just gradually cutting the scalp away from the cranium to allow easier access. And then, but they use a bone saw that then cuts that the skull to allow them access to the brain. So it's not very seldom. And okay, so if you put your hand under the scalp, you can pull it forward. It exposes the entire scalp or the skull, and there's no hair involved at all. You've just cut away everything to allow you to get to the skull, which then is cut by a bone saw. And then once that is removed, that's how they have access to the brain. And then it's put back. The skull is put back. Mortuaries or funeral directors, the embalmers, rebuild that skull so that it remains and continues to remain intact. And so it looks in the same form and shape. There's no misunderstanding there at all. It's like it never happened. But you know what? That's a good question, though, Scott, because sometimes when people say they've had an autopsy and they did the head autopsy, they did a cranial autopsy, so I know we won't be able to view her or him. And that's not true. And I have to explain to them exactly, nope, it'll be like it never happened. You won't know. So
yeah,
that's a good question.
Well, I can't for the life of me imagine why, after hearing all of that, why you would not want to see your loved one have an autopsy based on what you said. Jeez.
Yeah, and it is traumatic, especially if it's a loved one, to see them cut up. Yeah, have incisions made. It's difficult.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I will also say, because it's kind of the way that we've been speaking about it has been very almost jarring, kind of disgusting-ish. Mm-hmm. But it's done in a very good, at least the one that I saw. And when the doctor found the cause of death, was really cool too. And that's probably that is the main reason.
Yeah.
And so it's all scientific, and so anyway, that's just.
But it's done with you, and you can attest to this. And I've seen hundreds of autopsies, but every single one that I've seen is done with the utmost respect regarding the deceased.
Yeah. Here's an interesting one, because What is that? What?
Holly,
I'm
Oh,
sorry. We have small little gnats all over our house because our windows don't seal. They're really old. So we have access, or these little gnats have access to our house, and they're everywhere. And I swear, you just have to touch it and it kills them. So, but there's one flying around me. I'm so sorry.
it's all right. You distracted me. I'm thinking, what in the
Oh,
world is going?
shoot.
What? Am I missing part of the story, Holly? What, you want me to continue?
Yeah, this is part of it.
Okay.
For those that are just listening, yeah, Holly was practicing her karate on a quote unquote gnat that there was. We don't know if there was, but
Exactly.
we've also been saying that we have these recorded, and we might as well. I think this would
Show
be a
it.
good one to start putting these on YouTube. Here's an interesting question, and I say it's interesting because I'm thinking of an experience that I was there for, you were there for as well, in your mortuary, Dad. And the question is it safe? And the word is safe. So you can say whatever you want, and you can add whatever you want. Is it safe to kiss a body in a casket?
In a what?
In a casket. Is it safe to kiss an individual?
Okay, I'm just going to say what happens to the individual, and then I'm going to leave it to the coffiners to decide whether it would be safe or not. And then I'll give you my opinion. So when a person is embalmed, that's what the embalming actually does. It's a temporary preservation of the deceased, and it provides some sanitary cleaning to the individual that's passed away. If a person passed away from Jacob Creutzfeldt disease, I would say no. You'd never kiss the body because you don't know if you've got all the saliva cleared up and out, and there's too many issues that could happen with eyes. And no, yeah, you probably shouldn't do it. But once the embalming is done, the individual is dressed and then casketed, and there's a cosmetic base that will be placed on the skin, and that just allows a more natural appearance, hopefully, of the individual that's passed away, so they don't look so gray or pale. But the thing that you need to know is that the brushes used for the patient before maybe had Jacob's Creutzfeldt disease, maybe had tuberculosis, maybe had hepatitis C. They don't clean their brushes. And so you're using makeup with one brush, and you're tapping makeup and putting on the face and hair of an individual, on their hands, nails of someone that may have passed away from something that you wouldn't go out of your way to kiss. So the makeup issue is what causes me the second guess. If the person was just embalmed and no makeup was placed on the, by all means, do it. I would have no problem with it at all. But the makeup, and I have seen people, because some people, if they are jaundiced and the chemicals in the embalming mix with the bile in the body, and so that turns an individual green. I would rather have an individual green and hard and know that they've been embalmed well, and then I cosmetize them so that they don't look as green but are presentable. But as soon as someone kisses them, you can see the makeup on their lips. And so all of a sudden now you're kissing a deceased. Now you have makeup on your lips, so you're either going to try and wipe the makeup off, or what do you do when you kiss someone? You either wipe or lick, right? So when you lick your lips, what are you doing? You're taking in that cosmetics. And so I'll leave it up to you guys. It's a good question. I wouldn't kiss a corpse. I don't mind. I don't mind telling people to hold their hand. You can caress a face. You don't need to kiss it.
I just want to know what experience Scott was remembering.
Oh, yeah.
Do you? If I say that, can you picture it?
Oh, I see it all the time, but I don't know what
I'm
you're
sure.
referring. I don't know what
True.
you're
I'm sure you
referring
do.
to.
I went over to help you dress an individual that was getting ready for an ID view, and their spouse, when I think it was just the spouse and someone else.
Yeah.
And they went up and I mean, it was a good smack right on the lips. But I remember because we were both in the prep room, which I guess you could say behind the scenes, and we were doing things to get this individual presentable and ready for their ID view. And I think you've discussed some of them in the past, but especially after seeing that, and then you just get, you get that kind of contact. And I think we both looked at each other and I think we're like, oh.
Did you know?
Yeah. So I would lean towards your counsel of maybe.
Yeah, I don't think kissing is. I mean, I'm not going to say you can't kiss them because I think that's comforting for a lot of spouses, even children. But I don't know that I would not go out of my way to recommend it. Yeah.
I would agree with that. This is this is one that I just thought of, and then maybe we'll jump to the story. But I just had this weird image of and this could be a legit question. But as we were talking about that and like kissing someone while they were in the casket, I thought of like if your pet passed away, and if you had an open casket for a dog or something. And I pictured the exact same thing. I pictured basically a person, but with a dog face. And that, I don't know why I'm telling you this, but so this is the question. You forget about that whole explanation, but this is the question. I know that there are pet crematories that will take care of animals and pets pretty easily that way. Could you do what you do with a person with a pet?
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yes.
To what extent?
Just to what we would do as far as temporary preservation. It's nothing like taxidermy. So there would still be some fluid within the animal's body. But I don't know that I would ever take the opportunity to do it. We had a family, and it's funny that you'd bring that because a gentleman called me this morning and said, "Hey, I need to know what you would charge to cremate my dog." And I said, absolutely nothing, because we don't cremate pets.
Yeah.
But I can refer you to someone. And so I did, and he was grateful and never heard back from him. But it's interesting that you would ask that question, because just this morning I had someone call me and ask what we would charge to cremate their pet.
Huh.
Why do you not mix? Why can you not cremate a pet in a human-made retort? Or made for humans retort.
Okay, so there's nothing to say we can't. It's just that when we do, because once we do, we have to admit or disclose that the retorts that we use also cremate pets or animals. And some families just don't want that. They get this vision of commingling pet cremated remains with their loved one. So it's just easier just to say no, because there's people out there right now that actually do the cremation on animals. So let them do it. We don't have to worry about it. Yeah, but you're right. We can do it. It's just that we end up having to disclose that we have done it, and we don't want to turn away business or have business turn away from us simply because of us having the opportunity or the possibility of having cremated a pet in the same retort.
Okay, just on this thread, I don't remember what trashy show I was watching. It was either The Bachelorette or Love is Blind or something like this.
You called it trashy, correct?
Yeah.
I heard that. Oh, okay. All right. I just wondered. Okay.
Yes, definitely. But I love them. And it was one of the male contestants was a pet cremationist.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he made that his whole identity, and he got sent home.
Well, gee, I wonder why.
Yeah. And then on a different show, this was on Love is Blind UK, one of the guys' names was Freddie, and he was a funeral director, and everyone was so creeped out, but he still found love.
Wow. Was his last name Kruger?
Yes. But,
yes, Freddy Krueger. Oh, my gosh. That's funny. Oh, my word.
Yeah, I had to insert that.
Thanks.
Well, in my history, in my background, I have dated not 100, well, maybe have hundreds of girls, but they would never commit to me because of my profession.
What the heck? I'm not worried about that. I'm worried still on the first part of that comment.
I know.
Ask
Hundreds.
Mom. She knows.
Hundreds.
I've dated
Are you
hundreds.
sure it was because of your profession, or is that just what they told you?
Okay, Holly, that's what they told me. Maybe it was something different. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't want to know.
I don't either. I don't want to know.
Wow.
That's what I choose to believe, Holly.
That's what I choose to believe. Well, thank you, Scott. I will now
Thanks,
read
Scott.
one of our submitted stories. This story comes from Liz. So she starts by saying, Frank, I decided to write my experience and send it to you. The podcast is such a great listen, and you definitely need merch. I'll be the first in line for the t-shirt. I apologize ahead of the read. I wrote it from my own memory of all of it, and I didn't want to edit it, so hopefully it all makes sense and isn't too racy. So then she says, I'm not crazy. Frank and Holly, listening to your latest episode of the podcast, Pigs and Strangers and Scraping, oh my, it validated what I thought I had experienced. Let me share my story. A few weeks back, my cousin texted me, urging me to check out a new podcast she had discovered called Coffin Talkin'. Coincidentally, that morning, I decided to start listening to it. I was on my way to style the hair of one of my most fascinating clients for the last time. This client, a woman who had lived a vibrant life and always had captivating stories to share during our appointments. As a hairstylist, I've learned we often develop a unique intimacy with our clients, sometimes even surpassing that of close and best friends. While I'll spare you the details of her life, suffice it to say she was truly one of the most intriguing individuals I've had the pleasure to know. As fate would have it, when the mortuary called to schedule an appointment for me to style her hair, it coincided perfectly with her very last appointment she had booked with me. It felt like it was meant to be. In the final months of her life, I often had to remind her about appointments as her health declined and her memory was fading. On that particular morning, as I drove to the mortuary, I listened to the fun Frank and Holly banter, momentarily pausing the podcast upon arrival. The mortuary was a quaint, A-framed building, appeared to be older, and I am the sole car in the parking lot. As I waited for someone to open it for business, a sense of nervousness crept over me. Normally, I'd have a family member present for such appointments, but this time none had requested to attend. As I sat there, I remembered the music I played for her during the last salon visit and wondered if I could play that while I worked on her. On her last appointment with me in the salon, a couple weeks before, she had come in quite upset with her husband. She had been in an unhappy marriage for years, and I had heard all about it. That morning, he had been threatening her with divorce. I listened to her fret and worry over what life would be like. She shared how he was frustrated because she hadn't been feeling well, and he had been feeling a little too well, if you know what I mean. And he wasn't blaming her when she said she didn't feel up to it. She was so upset and just kept saying to me, I never want to do it again, ever. When she and her husband didn't know at the time was that she had cancer that was aggressive and would take her life within a few short weeks. That day, I played spiritual and uplifting music in the salon that I knew would calm her down, and it did. After a few songs, her tears became the kind you have when you hear good, touching music. Finally, someone arrived, and I was greeted by the mortician with whom I had spoken to over the phone. He had made sure to ask if I was comfortable with styling the hair of deceased and warned me she would be in her natural state without makeup. I was grateful for the warning and assured him I was okay with it all. He had led me to the chapel where she was laid on a table and gave me permission to play my music since no ceremonies were going on that day, and he left the room. I appreciated the intimate setting of the chapel as opposed to the sterile rooms I had sometimes been in before. Alone with her, I felt grateful for the opportunity to make her look her best one final time. She had been a beauty queen, even competing for Miss America back in her day, always poised and looking her best. There she lay now on a wooden table, dressed in a beautiful black and white dress, ready to be laid to eternal rest. I put on the same music we had listened to weeks before and got to work. I found myself talking and reminiscing with her about our years of friendship together as I worked on her hair. It felt as though she was there with me. It took me just over an hour to put the finishing touches on, and I announced to her that I was finished and that she looked amazing. She always loved to hear that she was beautiful. An interesting moment occurred when I glanced at my watch to see the time to find it reading 11:11, a time that seemed to follow me recently. I am not into numbers, numerology, or any of that, but I seem to be seeing it that time more often, enough to comment about it a few times to my husband and a few others. I recalled a recent conversation with a client who believed such occurrences signaled the presence of deceased loved ones. Remembering that, I looked at her and said, "You are here, aren't you?" I then tried to screenshot the time on my phone just for the memory of it and shut the music off. In that silence, the loudest windstorm started up outside, and I wondered where that had come from. It was clear as a summer's day outside when I got here, and no sign of a storm anywhere. I worried about the drive back to work and how that might go in a big storm. The winds were so loud and forceful that I looked up to the top of the A-frame chapel where the only window was to see if I could see debris flying by. I didn't see anything, but knew there would be a mess once I got outside. Then the strongest impression came to my mind, and the words, "Just enjoy this." I closed my eyes and just listened. It was beautiful. The swirling wind was heavenly and mesmerizing and went on for about a minute and then just stopped. Silence. I wasn't sure what to think or how to feel about this. I knew I needed to clean up, so I started the music back up and began to pack up my tools, and as I finished the last song of my playlist was finishing up too. It couldn't have been more perfectly timed. I took one last look at her and told her how beautiful she was and how grateful I was for her friendship, and told her that I loved her. I leaned over to give her one last hug, and I couldn't help myself. I giggled and whispered in her ear, "You will never, ever, ever have to do it with him again." I could feel her laughing with me as I bid her farewell. Exiting the chapel, I braced myself for the aftermath of the storm, only to find everything outside undisturbed, as calm as when I entered, not a blade of grass out of place. I got in my car and called my husband, crying and confused by the experience. What was that? After I hung up, I started playing the podcast again. Then came on Let's Be Frank, time of the podcast, and the stories began. He started telling strange, unexplainable experience, and I figured I was either crazy or I had just experienced one of those Frank moments too. I couldn't wait to tell Frank about it after listening to the podcast and knowing his background. When I finally ran into him and shared my experience, he cryptically urged me to listen to the next day's podcast. I listened to it early that next morning, and I got chills when I heard the sound of the wind he had heard too, similar to what I had encountered, reaffirming that I wasn't alone in my experience and I'm not crazy. So, Frank and Holly, thank you for providing a platform where stories like mine find validation, reminding us that sometimes the extraordinary is closer than we think.
I'm just going to tell you, I almost teared up
Oh, really?
a little bit from that story, just for the simple reason that I don't know what it is when you're around someone that has passed away, but there is a definite want to be close to them. So whether you, and we've talked about this in the episode just previous to the story being told, is that people want to kiss, hug, hold. They just want to hold on. They don't want to let go. And then her simple comments to her regarding her beauty is, oh my gosh, it's just one of the most amazing things ever. Now let's go back to the whirlwind that was actually taking place. And I think that may have been for Liz an opportunity to know that her friend was still there, and letting her friend letting Liz know, I know you're there. I'm grateful that you're there, and nothing is happening. Only you're hearing this, no one else. And then that simple comment and request. What is it? What did she say?
Just enjoy this.
Yeah, just enjoy this. And sometimes I think that's the message we should always remember in life, is that whatever's happening, you need to just close your eyes and just enjoy it. It may not be the best thing that's going on in your life right now, but to just enjoy the moment, I think, is very important. That was a great message. So, man, thank you, Liz, for that story.
Scott, did you have any comments about that one?
I just agree with what Frank has said. And so I wouldn't want you to think that it was, that you should downplay that, or that you should think, oh, maybe it was in my head, maybe it was the speaker doing something. No, I think it's really cool. And I think of everything that we've seen and that closeness that you talked about, Dad, I think it can be, I guess, based on what we've heard, it can be reciprocal as well. So it's you wanting to be close to this person that's deceased, but also the person, saying, hey, you can be, or I can be here right now as well with you, kind of thing. And I recognize and I realize that is not always the case, but I think it's very nice and very interesting to hear these stories that other people have, that they experience it. And I think it's a real thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's really cool. I like that story a lot. I think it's good.
I think going off of what Scott's saying too, just the fact that she was already talking to her about their experiences throughout the years and what they've gone through together, like it already builds that closeness. And I almost wonder if that sort of invites or encourages someone's spirit to be pulled there if they're not already there, to say this person is trying to spend time with you, so now you can spend time with them too. No, I thought that it was a really, really sweet story. And truly, we're the last people on earth who are going to tell you that you're crazy when you experience something like this, you know?
Yeah.
Everything you experience is valid, and like Scott said, you don't have to downplay it
No.
because of fear of what other people might think.
I think it's interesting. Two other points. That number one is that she was looking for validation from her husband, who obviously would not have experienced that at all. But just her willingness to share that experience with him would have told him that, hey, you are someone that I value. And so I want to know what your opinion is about what's happening here. And the second item is, isn't it interesting that she kept her appointment even though she passed away? Isn't that odd? That's kind of cool, right?
Yeah, that is really cool.
Because the appointment was already scheduled. And so she, instead of her going to the place where she would have gone to actually do the appointment, she was now meeting with her at a mortuary on the same day, same time. I think it's interesting how things work out.
Yeah, I think so too. And even her noticing that time, the 11:11.
Oh yeah.
And then having that experience as well. That was just another detail.
Mm-hmm.
And that is super interesting, that it would be the exact same time, same appointment. So yeah, why would she miss her own appointment if she had already scheduled it, right? Yeah.
I agree. Interesting. Thank you, Liz.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And thank you for sending in all of the questions that have been asked and answered today. I know we have more, but we will get to them at our next Phone a Funeral. But if you have any additional questions, please email them to us at letsbefrank@coffintalkin.com, DM us on Instagram, or leave us a comment on our YouTube channel at Coffin Talkin Podcast. And we will all see you next time.
Send the stories in.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, coffiners.
And feel free to watch this one. Watch it on YouTube.
Oh, so we're committing to that.
Yes, it's
okay.
Okay.
Well, yep. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, coffiners.